Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 54 for March 28th, 2008. Hooking up with hot women. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. For your free audiobook, visit audible.com/Windows. And by listeners like you. Thanks for your donations. Time for Windows. Okay, I'm going to get a cup of coffee and I'll come back. Time for Windows Weekly. Paul, help me. Paul Thurrott is here. He is the king of Windows, of all things Windows. He writes the WinInfo Daily Update, the Windows Informant. He's a news editor for Windows IT Pro. He runs the Windows Super Site at winsupersite.com.
Oh, dear God.
He's also... I got to give you the plug.
Whatever.
We don't pay you. I got to give you a plug.
We only have an hour here.
Okay. Don't forget the book, Windows Vista Secrets. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Thurrott.
And you, that guy from Fat Albert, apparently.
Hey. Love Fat Albert. Love that Windows. So I still haven't got Service Pack 1 for Vista. I don't understand.
You must have a problematic
driver. You think I have a driver? You think that's what it is?
You know, if you're feeling lucky and kind of Clint Eastwood style,
do you
could
lucky?
Yeah, you could just download the big one, the standalone.
So pretty much everybody who can get it now has it?
I don't know if I would say it that way, but I would say that pretty much everyone who could get it now could get it now. Yes.
And I have to say, given that we haven't seen any, maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but any howls.
There's some. Nothing major like you might expect. I mean, Vista hasn't exactly gotten the kindest reception from the press, shall we say. So the horror stories have been minimal so far.
Right.
But it's early yet. Give them time. They'll invent something.
Right.
And certainly, I don't mean to downplay the fact that some people will, in fact, have real problems. You and I, we were just talking about some news story stuff before we started recording. And one of the other things that I've been trying to deconstruct is this, this SP1 stuff, right? That, people are just freaking out over nothing and, sort of inventing stories about Service Pack 1 when, in fact, it's just kind of, it's just kind of there. But the big invention here has been that, Microsoft is offering free support for Windows Vista Service Pack 1. Thus, there must be huge problems with it. They're responding, when in fact, Microsoft has always offered free support for Service Packs. This is nothing new. They've been doing this probably for 15 years.
Oh, interesting.
And every story, virtually, not every story, but virtually every story online has involved, language to that effect. Do
you think people are just out for at this point out for Microsoft's blood? It's like you can't. I feel bad. I hate to say this, but I feel bad for them. It's like. All
right. So two issues here, right? I mean, as a journalist of sorts, I recognize the need to have a story, right? You want people to be interested in it,
right?
Vista, for whatever reason, is low-hanging fruit. It's like it's already controversial, apparently. So it's very easy to get into that mode. And you can look at something and not really pay too much attention and come away with the wrong idea.
Right.
And when you hear that they're not charging you for support, it's I don't know, somewhat naturally, but sadly, these people make an assumption, and then stories get written, and there you go.
Right. So there's no story. Move along. There's no story here.
There's no story there.
Except that Leo still doesn't have it. That's a story from my point of view.
Tomorrow, I expect to see on Channel Web, Leo Laporte does not have Service Pack 1.
What is going on? Do you want to talk about...
Probably because you don't like Service Pack 1.
Maybe that's it.
Or you don't like Vista, you don't like Microsoft.
I'm worried because they're offering free support.
I would be too.
Do you want to talk about this Channel Web thing? You've been talking a little bit about it on the Super Site.
Well, yeah, okay. So this is related to Windows XP Service Pack 3, right? I would say previous to last summer, Microsoft was very quiet about this final service pack for Windows XP. The reason being that they were obviously in over their heads with Windows Vista. They had bigger problems, to deal with. A lot of people look at a company like Microsoft and they think, my God, this place is about 70, 80,000 employees, whatever they're up to now, and they must be able to handle anything. Why can't they simultaneously release a service pack along with a major version of Windows? But, I think like any other company, they have whatever resources they have, and there are priorities and so forth. So as Vista was delayed and delayed and delayed, so too was XP Service Pack 3 delayed. But finally last year, they came around and said, okay, we're going to ship this thing in the second quarter of 2008. We're going to start beta testing it. We're going to start working on it. And then, sure enough, late last year, they started releasing public beta versions of this product. And then over the past few months, they've released some release candidates. And just this week, they released a first refresh build for the second release candidate. So I would say, I think off the top of my head, probably 4 or 5 public releases of this thing have occurred. And, since they announced the release date, the story has never really changed. Second quarter 2008, that's when it's coming out.
So that's sometime between now and June, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Right. But by the end of June, certainly.
Right.
Now, the thing is, there's, in keeping with the discussion we just had previously about, having to come up with a story and, there's a controversial thing around Windows Vista Service Pack 1. I write news stories every day. I think of it as a news digest, in the sense that I look out at what's going on in the world, and I don't write about everything. What's the point? I try to pick out the things that I think are the most relevant to Windows users. So I visit various sites and I look at news sources and I see what's going on in the world. And last week there was a story from a source called Channel Web, and these stories are basically, they're on crn.com and in other places, but it's the type of thing where you kind of read this and then you think, wait a minute, what is going on here? And basically what the story said was, according to sources, Windows XP Service Pack 3 would ship as soon as Monday, this past Monday, March 24th. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. I didn't think it would come that soon. Certainly the recent beta builds have been very high quality. It looks like it's pretty stable. It looks like Microsoft might have been a bit conservative with the release schedule, that they could ship it earlier in that range. But then I looked at the story and, the guy, first of all, there's one source, and in the story it actually said at least one source says that Windows XP Service Pack 3 would ship on Monday. It's not at least one source, it's one source. And the source is actually the release notes that accompany a pirated version of Windows XP Service Pack 3.
Of course.
Found via a BitTorrent search engine. And it's got all this crazy, if you've ever seen any of these things, there's ASCII art in there and there's crazy, language and there's all kinds of nutso stuff in there. And even this source, so let's just say, this is the source. Okay, fine. It doesn't even positively say that it would come out on that day. It actually says, if this is indeed the final build,
oh boy,
then you will be all set with this version because, if this is it, then this is it.
If it's final, then it must be, yeah.
And I thought to myself, anyone with any credibility would never use this as a source for a story. But this was the only source for the story that this guy wrote, that Service Pack 3 would be released, this past Monday. Now, my issue with this has nothing to do with the release date. I have no information about when this build will, or when this product will in fact ship to people. And I don't really care. If it came out Monday, if it comes out next Monday, if it comes out 2 months down the road, I have to be honest. I just don't care. To me, this is not a big deal. But no. I'm more concerned with the source, and that this guy was not some random blogger. It was published through, major websites. And then, of course, picked up by every news aggregation source on the planet. So I wrote something about it in Short Takes last week in WinInfo on Friday. And I just sort of explained what I just explained here. And I said, this guy did something I think is wrong, and I don't quite get it. Well, since that first story appeared, Monday came and went. And, of course, the Service Pack was not released. But what Microsoft did was he wrote a second story that says Microsoft stokes the fires of XP Service Pack 3 anticipation.
Stoked his fire.
As if Microsoft was the one, trying to get people excited about it, when in fact this guy had just invented a story and it was him. So I'm thinking, well, maybe Microsoft responded to this story. So in the second story, I read this, I'm thinking, well, maybe Microsoft responds. Maybe he actually asked Microsoft. He didn't, and they didn't. But what they did do was publish a document to their website explaining what Windows XP Service Pack 3 is. He called this a curiously timed document published on Friday, which doesn't explore any new ground and basically reiterates that XP Service Pack 3 simplifies XP deployments. So first of all, this guy invents a story. Then he accuses Microsoft of stoking the fires of anticipation over this thing. And then he talks about this curiously timed document, but he provides a link where you can download the document. But what he doesn't provide is a link where you can go to the page on Microsoft.com from which you can download the document. And the reason that's important is because that page would actually have the date that thing was first published. So I downloaded the document using his link, and I looked at it, and I said, I've seen this thing before. So I went back through my archives, and sure enough, last December, I have a version of this document, almost identical, that Microsoft had released according to my notes, on December 4th, 4 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever.
Well, it's a slow time.
Well, the curiously timed document was in fact released 3 months earlier.
That's curious.
It was perhaps updated.
Right.
Okay, fine. All right, so we're moving along. So 2 days pass. Guy writes another story. This one about how Microsoft has now delayed Windows XP Service Pack 3.
Because it didn't put it out on his timetable.
Right, because not only did they not ship the final version this week, but they shipped a refresh build of Release Candidate 2, which, by the way, explains why they released an updated version of that documentation. Yeah. He calls it a Hamlet moment, to XP or not to XP.
Oh, please. This guy
is
stretching.
Will they release Windows XP Service Pack 3? It's a question that is burning up the blogosphere.
No one cares.
With some speculating that Microsoft has delayed Windows XP Service Pack 3. Actually, nobody has speculated that. The timetable for delivering Windows XP Service Pack 3 has not, in fact, even come.
Right.
Let alone expired. We have 3 months to go.
Right.
This is ludicrous. So he made up a story. He followed it up with a made-up story, and then he followed it up again with another made-up story. And I'm sorry. This is ridiculous.
I have to say that this is a little bit what happens in the blogosphere now, is that it's just...
Yes, in the blogosphere. See, I agree with that. And that's one of the problems with the blogosphere. It's also a problem with the news aggregation type sites, which...
Don't distinguish between a
don't do
story.
A lot of... Yeah, they don't do a lot of thinking. They see the headline... Right. The more controversial it is, the better it is for their site, so they just publish it. There's no commentary, there's no thought, there's no looking to see whether or not this thing is accurate. There's no attempt made at all to determine what the sources are and if this thing is in fact true. And I don't like to do this kind of thing. I'm uncomfortable. I don't mean to go after an individual, but I mean, this is insane. And this is a little bit of a glimpse behind the curtain, I think, for some people, because I actually deal with this kind of thing on a regular basis. This is one of the more high-profile versions, but this happens all the time, And as someone who works with the news, I guess in the tech industry, I'm always disheartened by the way these stories come about, and then the way they're just picked up everywhere.
Yeah, and
then they become like facts.
Yeah,
and it's sad. So anyway, the truth is, the short version in 10 seconds or less, there is a refresh build version of Windows XP Service Pack 3 if you want it. It's a download from the Microsoft website. You can get it from Microsoft.com/downloads. Just search for RC2 refresh. You'll find it. It's no big deal.
Do you have to be a developer or anything, or anybody?
Nope, anyone can get it.
It's public.
Yeah.
So if you're craving SP3, you can get a version. But I think it's my understanding of XP Service Pack 3 is it's just a roll-up of hotfixes.
Yes. Now, I just published a story today about XP and why people are still so attached to it. And I feel like that part of that discussion is Service Pack 3. And the thing that people need to understand is Service Pack 3 satisfies the needs of big companies. There are a few additional features in there that are aimed at enterprises. These features mean nothing to individuals, nothing. For an individual, the only benefit of Service Pack 3 is that if you're doing a fresh install of the operating system, all those hotfixes are in there. So you don't have to go to Microsoft Update or Windows Update and manually download hundreds of hotfixes like you would today with XP and Service Pack 2. So that's a convenience. But that's it. I mean, let's be honest here. To me, the bigger issue, the bigger story, or the real story, I guess I would say, is this thing that's out there. I mean, people are refusing to let go of Windows XP. And I think that it has a lot less to do with technology than it just does to do with human nature. And the realities of the schedule with Vista with all the delays, and also that Microsoft decided in somewhat of a prudent fashion to backport Vista technologies that were previously going to be Vista specific and make them available to XP users, thus making the previous version of the operating system even more viable over time than it would have been otherwise. It's kind of like the perfect storm of timing and events, and that XP has turned into what I described as that sort of ratty old sweatshirt that's in the back of your closet, and you can't stand to get rid of it because it's so damn comfortable, even though it has, holes in it and it looks terrible.
Hey, we were talking last week, speaking of software that you don't need.
Speaking of sweatshirts, yeah.
Sweatshirts.
Yes.
About Apple pushing Safari on people, even though they hadn't had it installed previously. The Apple updater just automatically pushed it. And I just saw a note in Ars Technica that, and I'm looking at it right now on the Windows version of Safari, it says, this license allows you to, besides saying this Apple software is not intended for use in the operation of nuclear facilities, it also says...
Which says something about its reliability.
Yeah, don't run it in a nuclear facility, and if you die, it literally says, do not use on equipment in which the failure of Apple software could lead to death. Okay?
Yikes.
But it also
says... Oh, go on, yeah.
I know where you know where I'm going here.
Yeah.
You have to use it on an Apple computer.
So you'll be happy to hear... that Apple has very quickly rectified this problem.
Okay, good.
And they have issued a new user license that does not involve that language.
Because I'm breaking the law.
Yes. And really, anyone who uses Safari in Windows should be arrested.
I think so. It does not look good. It doesn't even look as good in Windows. I mean, it's just terrible.
You know what? Actually, it's okay. It's okay.
The fonts don't look good, though.
You can fix that, actually. You can go in and change the way the fonts are under. But so what? To me, what's the point of it? Firefox, for whatever failings it may have, at least offers benefits over Internet Explorer, and you can make a decision that those benefits at least make sense for you to install the thing and use it instead. And I think there's certainly 160 million people have decided to do just that. Fantastic. I don't really feel like Safari is bringing anything to the table. I don't see a benefit there.
Actually, truthfully, I use IE7. I was one of the people who said, never use IE6, use Firefox, please. I told all my listeners, use Firefox. But IE7's security model, especially in Vista, is very good. I'm back to IE7. I think it's a very good...
I went back to IE7 for a while. It's fine.
Yeah.
I still use Firefox. There are a couple of Firefox... add-ins that I like to use. But I think the big issue on the Safari thing, and you touched on it briefly there, was, there was a bit of controversy because Apple had
pushed it on
people, and there was a big uproar over that, as I think there should have been, because I think it's the wrong thing to do.
You bet.
Inevitably, because of who I am, I get email from people saying, well, yeah, but, Microsoft has done that too, And actually, that's true. They have.
But never on Mac users.
Oh, I don't even know. Who cares? But they have. I mean, they've done it on Windows Update. Right now they're pushing Silverlight via Windows Update.
That's true. But it's an optional.
It's optional. I guess the argument you could make there is that Microsoft technologies tend to become part of the next version of the operating system, so that by upgrading to this thing now via Windows Update, you're in a sense, taking a step down that path. But whatever.
It doesn't bug me as much as Apple. And look, I'm an Apple fan. It doesn't bug me as much as Apple saying, here's Safari, especially if you've never installed it. Here's a better surfing experience. Use Safari. That bugs me somehow.
It is disgusting, yeah. I guess the only thing I'd just say to all this is it doesn't matter that Microsoft did this. That doesn't make what Apple did right, And I would also say I think people hold Apple to a higher standard. Let's be honest here. I mean, Apple is supposed to be this premium experience, and this is dishonest, and this is the type of thing that I don't think people who are into Apple products would appreciate. And I just, I think it's the wrong thing for them to do. That's all. It was wrong when Microsoft did it too. I get it. But that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about what Apple's doing. And I just think it's the wrong thing to do.
Yep. Let's see. Service Pack 1, Service Pack 3. Oh, both Intel and AMD announcing upgrades to their chips. AMD's now got a quad core.
Finally.
Is it a real quad core?
Yeah, it is. Well, then that's the thing. Technologically, it is, in fact, 4 processor cores on a single die.
It's more of a quad core than Intel's.
It is more quad.
More
core.
Quad than Intel. And then Intel has announced like a 6-core, which is really an odd number.
Yeah, Intel did AMD also announced a 3-core this week, and then some low energy versions of the quad core. It's very strange, but AMD's chips are aimed at the consumer desktop market. Intel's, of course, they're all over the map. They have enterprise versions and works, different versions. So, for a long time, I said use AMD. They were better in price and performance. Yep. They were, and thank goodness they were around to push Intel to not only keep their prices down, but to innovate. I think we'd be stuck with Prescott if it weren't for AMD. But they've fallen behind. Are they catching up? Is it time to start thinking about AMD again? No, I don't think so. It's interesting. If you think back, I think it was 2 years ago when Apple announced that they were switching to Intel. One of the big arguments at the time was, why wouldn't they switch to AMD instead? It seemed like those two companies had more in common, and AMD had innovated in the x64 space and so forth. AMD had this moment in the sun, and the moment that ended was when Intel released their first core processor, the dual-core processor, and it's only gotten worse since then. And I would say that right now, technological advances aside, from a pure day-to-day usage standpoint, Intel's processors are still ahead where it matters. And I feel like AMD is where they have been historically, which is playing catch up. And that's not good enough. And I don't know. I don't get excited about this stuff. I'm sorry. I'm glad that they're doing it. It's the right thing to do. It would have been better 3 months ago, but whatever. There's no advantage. They can say, hey, we have true quad core chips, and they do, and they're right. But as it turns out, they don't perform as well as Intel, so whatever.
So the heck with it. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm still rooting for them.
Yeah, right. It's not like I wish them ill. I want them to succeed. I love what they did with x64. It's beautiful. And they got the right people to get behind it, especially at Microsoft, and all of a sudden, this is the platform of the future, but it's the platform of the future that we're all going to be running on Intel chips, unfortunately. So, oh well, I try. Yeah, I try. Yeah. Hey, we talked about this on Security Now yesterday. There's a big security exploit involving Microsoft's Jet database engine. Right. And in fact, it's interesting because this is being used in industrial espionage as much as just trying to co-opt people's computers. Apparently very targeted attacks, and Microsoft's documentation for this exploit is it's kind of scary because, they ask you to contact your national law enforcement agency if you get hacked in this fashion. Oh, jeez. Which is never a good sign, No. You can call Microsoft support too, but you might want to just call 911 first. Call the Department of Homeland Security immediately if you should receive this virus. So it comes in a two-part. It comes in a double attachment. You get a Word document and you get a renamed MDB database file. And the Word document, if you open it without warning, without without silently, opens this MDB file, takes advantage of this Jet flaw, and hacks you. And there's no fix for it. Right. Yeah, there's no fix. There's not even any advice. The only advice they can give you right now is just don't open Word attachments. Oh, yeah. Which is not much. I don't know. That's, Well, I've been saying don't open attachments for a long time. And, for a while I kind of thought, well, the rule really should be don't open executable attachments. The problem is nobody really knows what an executable is. There are 20 or 30 executable extensions on Windows. And, in fact, a doc file is an executable because of the macro language. And here we see a perfect example. I would like to point out, by the way, that if you're running Windows Vista, any version, you're not susceptible to this attack. Oh, interesting. So yet another reason. Because of UAC or? No, it has a updated version of the Microsoft Jet database engine.
So there is a fixed JAD, but it's just the people on XP don't have it.
I don't know that it's so much fixed as it is that
it's not susceptible.
It just happens not to be susceptible to this type of exploit.
Accidentally invulnerable.
It could be accidentally. Sometimes you trip and you land on your feet. It's kind of hard to say.
And that's actually encouraging. I wish it were because of Vista's superior security, however. That would encourage me even more.
No.
You can't give me any hope. This is the hopeless episode. There's no hope. AMD's dead.
I'm sorry. Am I a
SP3 will never come out. I'm not going to get.
Will come out. It just won't matter. I have good news about some espresso, though.
Good coffee. That's always, I find when I'm having a blue day, there's nothing cheers me up better.
Nothing cheers me up like caffeine.
Of caffeine. I got my. It was so funny. I was doing the radio show on Saturday. And, I stream video of the radio show on Ustream, so people are watching.
Oh, so were you making coffee?
No, they're in the chat room's going, there's somebody behind you. And I go, whoa. And I turn on the FedEx guy. I'm kind of in the back, upstairs in the back. I guess I left the door open. He came up. He brought with him 3 massive boxes, including my Francis X5 coffee maker. And
I was wondering which one you had, yeah.
Yeah, well, I have 2 Francis's.
Okay.
I love them, but the new X5 is really great. And Illy has, if you go to illyusa.com, they have 2 offers if you join their Coffee of the Month club. You have to drink a lot of coffee to make this worthwhile. But
sure.
Oh man, I kind of now regret it because I got the lesser of the Francis. If you click the home delivery link, there's a little red Francis. But then, did you see that big one you can get, the Pasquini Livietta? Man, I wish I'd got that. It was only $630.
Yes. Well, so really? Well, I'll tell you what.
He's tempted.
No, I'm not tempted. That's just I do love machines that look like this.
Isn't that beautiful?
I got a bunch of email about this discussion we had last week, so I had to look it up. I couldn't remember what I have. What I have is an Ariete Cafe Prestige. It's only $139 right now at Amazon. It's fantastic.
Oh, really?
In fact, after like I said, we got off of Skype last week, and I was talking to my wife about this conversation. As I often do after I got off Windows Weekly, I just talk about Windows Weekly with my wife because she's so interested. And
that poor woman. Oh, that's pretty. This is pretty. I like this. This looks like a pro. This is very affordable.
No, it's a great machine. Yeah, and it was not this cheap when we bought it. And I just mentioned, someone had written me and said, it was funny. It was actually it was a wife of somebody who listens to the show. I guess he had her listen to that part of it. So she asked me what it was, and she was the first one, so I went and looked it up, and I actually subsequently got a few other emails, but I was able just to paste in the URL. But I showed this to my wife, and I said, this thing is only $139 on Amazon now. She said, just buy it. We got to get we'll use it as backup, because
it's always good to have 2, because if one dies, what are you going to do? You can't get coffee. I'm sorry.
No, and you don't want to go to Starbucks every day.
Well, like we said last week, I consider this a cost-saving measure.
Yeah.
Because, Starbucks is $4 a pop.
And by the way, for whatever it's worth, not to dump on Starbucks per se, but let's dump on Starbucks for a second here. Their coffee isn't really that great. It's over roasted. It's really bitter. It's confusing to me that in all the stuff about Starbucks today, when they're trying to remake the company and figure out what's going wrong, that I already know what's wrong. They have done nothing to replicate the Italian cafe experience, and their coffee stinks. They should fix that.
I mean, the thing about coffee, why it's such a good business is people are addicted to coffee, and it's they're basically pushers.
Right, but you can go to Dunkin' Donuts and get the same drink for $2.
That's the problem now. You can get good coffee at other places. But the Illy experience, I made a cup this morning. It's still the best. Now, you said you're not getting Illy anymore.
That was so same conversation. My wife and I, again, like I said, we often discuss Windows Weekly right after we record because she loves this stuff.
I do the same with my wife, yeah. Honey, service.
It's amazing I haven't gotten divorced yet. She actually goes into a coma.
No, it's so funny. Now you tell me if this is true. I finally figured it out. Yeah. I'm into machines. She's into humans. She'll talk about, people's inner lives, and I just I glaze over. I couldn't care less. Because she's a psychotherapist. This is her meat and potatoes.
I'd say.
I'll talk about a coffee machine, and she'll glaze over. She doesn't care about machines. I don't care about people.
Wow. Well,
would you go that far?
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with that, but I think it's accurate because
Yeah, I think
we
there are
just
a
had
lot of
lunch
guys listening right now who totally get what
No,
we're
my
saying.
wife was talking about parenting with regards to people we know who also have kids and how, obviously they're not doing the same great job we are.
Yeah, of course not.
And then I'm talking about Windows XP Server Spec 3 and about how this jerk over at Channel Web got it wrong.
Was she at all interested?
I think her face actually hit the plate.
But you know what? We can come together over coffee.
Yes. So, so back to the, we had this conversation. She reminded me, I was talking about Illy, and I thought it was, really funny because Leo, does the same thing and we get Leo, and she says, actually, we don't get Illy anymore. So what are you talking about? Because she reuses the canisters.
Oh, so you don't know.
Yeah. She's been getting this coffee called Googly Elmo. I had to look it up. You get in a brick, like those packed bricks, and you kind of cut it open and the air seeps out. And,
cool. Is it good?
Yeah, it's like half the price. It's fantastic.
Well, I'm going to have to try it. It's Italian, right?
Yeah, it's great.
That
it's
was
like
Marconi's first name is Guglielmo.
There you go. That's Guglielmo. Oh, you can say it. I can't say
Guglielmo.
it.
Hello, Guglielmo. Como stai?
There's a place called, it's like L'Espresso USA. L'Espresso USA, all one word, .com that sells it online. She buys it at an Italian kind of cafe /
See, now the Illy is getting a little overpackaged because it comes in individual foil wrappers. Because I use the ESE pods,
right?
They're pre.
No, we used to get those canisters. We would get, I think, something like probably get like 6 of them a month or something.
Yeah,
we have a problem,
and that's what I'm doing. It's expensive. You're right. Let me just see.
Yeah.
Let me just see how much I'm paying. In fact, I shouldn't really check, should I? Oh,
they're expensive. I was, again, as part of this whole, I went and looked, and sure enough, there
is it. But still got to be cheaper than paying $4 for a venti latte.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Oh yeah, yep.
Please tell me.
Well, not to mention the fact that you're not leaving your house to drive over there and get it and all that stuff. So.
Well, I don't have to leave my house. It's funny. I'm browsing through the site. They really don't ever tell you how much you're paying. They don't want you. They don't want you to know. I've locked in because I bought this Francis for $150, right? Mm-hmm. And then, but you're locked in for a year of the coffee club. You have to buy 4 cans a month for a year.
Well, I can tell you that the cans are $14 a piece at Ely for the. Yeah, for
and that's 18 cups. But see, I do doubles, so it's 9.
18 servings of ESE are $13.50.
Okay. Well, that's not bad because that means I get 9 cups for $13. It's but 25.
We buy this stuff for $7 a pack.
Oh, all right.
Locally.
I'll have to try this Guglielmo.
This is why my wife does the money, and I just talk pretty much.
See, you're lucky because your wife can do the money.
Yeah,
my wife no.
Oh, that's the only reason we're still here.
I'm doing the taxes right now, and I'm saying, we actually made a little bit of money this year. I don't know what happened to it. I have no idea where it went.
Well, are you self-employed?
Yeah.
Yeah, then I can tell you where it went. It went to the government because you pay about 40% of your money to taxes.
Huge amount in taxes. I don't even want to. And then they get rid of the AMT.
I don't want to. Yeah, it's
that
disgusting.
Time of year again.
Yeah.
This is the depressing episode.
Jeez.
Let's talk about something exciting. Social networking. Okay. That's happy. Microsoft's getting into this?
No, well, sort of. More along the lines this time of trying to integrate social networking context management systems with their own Windows Live contacts using these, public APIs. One of the things they announced recently with regards to Windows Live was that they were going to open it up so that developers could access the many features of all the Windows Live services. And one of the things they just announced was an agreement with 5 of the most popular social networking sites, although I should note, not the number 1 social networking site, not MySpace, an agreement to use these APIs and to make it easy for users of all of these services to swap contacts back and forth.
Now, is it open, but it's not Google's Open Social, it's something else.
Right. It's just a specific agreement between these services. But the nice thing here is that for the people who do use this stuff, and this is, by the way, Facebook, Bebo, High Five, LinkedIn, and Tagged.
Well, those are the ones that count. I mean, who uses MySpace?
Who uses MySpace?
Kids use MySpace.
people with attention deficit disorder, apparently.
Yeah,
well, as it turns out, MySpace, by the way, is in fact using an older version of this API.
Oh, okay.
They're not part of the announcement. Microsoft wouldn't discuss them, but my feeling is that they'll probably come on board eventually. So the alternative.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just wondering what it means for a user. I mean, how?
Well, yeah. It means better security and better performance, because the way that these sites are doing this stuff now is through screen scraping, which is, to me, brings up mainframe connotations somehow. I always equate this with emulated text-based environments on Windows or something. It's just kind of a weird AS.
It's brute force. I mean, it's like AS400. Get the data out of that site.
Yeah, but doing screen scraping over the internet is fairly insecure, especially if that service is storing your login information for another service on their own server.
Yeah.
Which of course is something that is happening. So now, if you're using these services, I think today they're phasing it on over time. So today, if you have Facebook or Bebo, I believe it's those two, you can go to those sites and get contacts out of Windows Live securely and safely, and vice versa.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, does it use OAuth? Because that seems to be the coming way to do all of this.
I don't believe so, but I'm not positive. I don't know. No, I don't think so.
OAuth, for instance, when you try to get a program to use Flickr or a site to use Flickr, you'll use this OAuth protocol, this open authentication protocol, that you just go to Flickr. Flickr says, "Okay, do you want this guy to talk to you?"
Exactly. Well, by the way, the
yes.
experience is exactly like that.
Oh, good.
So the idea is that if you're on Facebook and you say, look, I'd like to invite all the people in my Windows Live contacts database to join me on Facebook, you have to log into Windows Live through something that is very clearly a Microsoft authentication experience, but in sort of a Facebook frame. And the idea here is that it looks like what you're already doing, but you also know that it's Microsoft. It's secure. It
says it's not OAuth, the API, but at least it does have that OAuth style authentication, which is a big improvement.
It definitely is that, same style.
Yeah. I'd like to see everybody use OAuth, because I spent a lot of time, getting stuff from one site to the other and so forth, and it's not easy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I think we're heading down that path. This is the beginning.
Yes. Although once again, I hate to say it, but Microsoft does like to do not invented here. They like to use, if there's an existing system like OAuth, they often seem unlikely to use it. We want to do it our way because it's and they probably can make the case it's better. We've done stuff that's unique and we'd like to do it our way.
Well, I guess my only thought here is that millions of people using things like Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth. To those people, that it works and that it looks legit and it works securely. That's all they're going to care about. Yeah.
No, you're right. But those of us who know better.
There'll always be those people.
We should just kind of say, hey, there is a better way, or there's an open way. I guess it's not so much that it's better. It probably Microsoft's way is better. I wouldn't know. I can't judge. But it just would be nice if they would support the existing open standard. Just like micro formats, all these other standards that are around that just
give them time. I think they're just coming awake to that stuff. They're going to get there. Yeah.
Well, in past they had to invent this stuff, but now there's this very rich ecology.
It is Microsoft here. Give them some credit. They're opening. They've talked about how they're going to open everything up, and they've been kind of doing it. It's not perfect. Windows Live Photo Gallery, for example, integrates somewhat with Flickr, but none of the other sites that people use to store photographs online. Hopefully, over time, that will get better. Maybe over time, there will be an open standard specifically for sharing, photographs, and then somewhere down the line, maybe Microsoft will become part of that. Who knows? I just think this is a step down the road. So
excellent.
They'll get there.
Excellent. All right, we're going to take a break and come back with your tip of the week. I forgot to do my software pick last week, but I have it still, and it's still a good pick. So I'll do that as well as your pick is really is a web service, which is kind of neat.
Right.
I think more and more we're going to see that web services. In fact, mine's kind of a web service too. Come to think of it. So we'll talk about those in just a little bit. But right now, what it's time to talk about. Time to talk about Audible. Audible.com/Windows. You can go there for a risk-free trial of audio books. It's a great way to get to know Audible.com. When you sign up, if you're a new member and you sign up, you get a credit toward a book, any book of your choice. And there are so many good choices. We talked about John Adams last week. Did you see episode 3 yet?
I haven't been able to watch it because we don't have
you don't
HBO,
have HBO,
so I'm going to DVD it at some time or do something like that. I'll get there.
Good. Oh, I love it. I haven't seen episode 3 yet, but it's on my playlist. I hope I do it before I'm leaving for Australia on Sunday. Anyway, that was a good recommendation, and I'm actually looking for books to bring with me to Australia because I like to have, reading a 12-hour flight. There's no better way to pass 12 hours in a plane than with Audible.com. I was looking at Dr. Z on Scoring, how to pick up, seduce, and hook up with hot women. But then I thought, it's on their front page right now. It's on their front page. That should
be the title of the episode, How to Hook Up and Score with Hot Women.
We'd probably get more downloads, wouldn't we?
Just because if anyone knows anything about that, it's you and I.
Oh, yeah, baby. Well, instead of the depressing show, I'm going to call this How to Hook Up and Score.
There you go. See if we get a little boost in numbers.
I bet you will get twice the numbers. People are going to...
That's so sad.
We should start
and then we become part of the problem. Yeah.
We are the problem. So I'm just looking I've been looking for books to download. I just downloaded Dune. I think we talked about that, the dramatization, and that'll probably get me all the way across. You
ever do any Ray Bradbury, like the Martian Chronicles?
Oh, I love Ray Bradbury. Do they have Ray Bradbury on there? Let me just look. He is fantastic. Arthur C. Clarke passed last week. We talked about Arthur C. Clarke. Oh yeah, Something Wicked This Way Comes.
There's
2 ways to listen to that. They have a dramatized version and a read version, which would be really cool. The dramatized is, of course, just 2 hours, but the full-length unabridged is 7 hours, 48 minutes. Fahrenheit 451, The Illustrated Man. Ray Bradbury radio dramas. Ooh, wouldn't that be fun to listen to? Dimension X.
That's great.
X-1. These are all Ray Bradbury. Dandelion Wine dramatized. There's quite a bit of Ray Bradbury on Audible.com.
There you go.
There's a great thing. Okay, you got it. Thank you. I was looking for some tips. Oh, I love this. One More from the Road, From the Dust Returned. Fantastic Tales, The Martian Chronicles. If you are a book lover, you're going to love Audible.com because, I love to read, but I just can't find the time often. When I try to read before I go to bed, I fall asleep after one page. But Audible keeps my attention. Nice. I spend time in the car. It's really great for commuting. But anytime you can't read, but you could listen, Audible.com. Audible.com/Windows is the place to go to get your credit for a free book. And we're recommending this week all the Ray Bradbury books. What's your favorite?
Of the Ray Bradbury, I would go with Fahrenheit 451 personally, but
that's the classic.
Something Wicked This Way Comes, obviously classic. Illustrated Man, classic.
I mean, they're all great. Hugo Award winner, 1954. Let's do it. 451, Fahrenheit 451. Read by, get this, Christopher Hurt.
Yeah.
That's going to be good. That's the other thing I love about Audible. Great readers. Audible.com/Windows. We thank them for their support. All right, my friend, I think it's time for you to come up with are you going to do a Vista tip this week?
Yeah, although, to be fair, this is just an all-around general tip, and this is a pet peeve of mine because I've had problems along these lines, and we're going to talk, of course, about hooking up with hot women here. So this applies to everybody.
Using Windows to hook up with hot women.
You guys gather around. No. Oh, boy. Anyway, no. Actually, what I want to talk about is backing up. And we've talked a little bit about some of the web services that are out there, the photo backup services, especially things like Picasa Web, for example, that I use. And Microsoft offers, SkyDrive, which doesn't yet have enough storage for you to do a total backup. So we have the Amazon S3 service and so forth. But however you do it, you need to be backing up. And if you're on XP, unfortunately, there's nothing really in the operating system that's decent, as far as backup goes. There's the old NT backup application, but you really need to do something yourself. That might mean a third-party solution of some sort, software that you buy. Perhaps you buy a NAS device or an external hard drive that comes with its own software. Anything.
You could use Microsoft SyncToy.
Backup is important.
SyncToy is a pretty good little power tool.
Depending on how much stuff you have. I mean, SyncToy is interesting because it allows you to take stuff and ensure that it's on your desktop and your laptop, and that's nice. It has its place. If you have a lot of stuff, you need something, whatever it might be. The nice thing about Windows Vista is that it comes with really nice backup tools.
Oh.
And there's a backup and restore center that's sort of the front end to all of your backup needs, but it has it does file and folder backup, which is I think what a lot of people think of when they think of backup. But it also has a system. An image backup. We do a complete PC backup, and it's an image-based backup. It uses that Microsoft Virtual HD format that they use in Virtual PC.
Oh, that's neat.
And so forth, and that stuff I think is important as well. If you happen to,
how do you get that? Because I'm looking, I see backup files and folders, but I don't see a
if you just go to what version of Vista are you using?
Oh, I'm not using SP1 yet. Is this SP1?
No. I mean, which edition?
Ultimate.
Oh no, you have this. It's restore. It's on backup and restore center. The top will say backup files for your entire computer.
Yeah.
And the bottom. I'm sorry. And then there's two buttons. One is for files, and then the next one down says backup computer, and that's for Windows Complete PC backup.
Huh.
And then the second section, you don't have that.
No.
Really.
Maybe I'm not an administrator or something. Do I need to be an administrator?
No, that could be.
You're not talking about Windows Easy Transfer, are you?
Nope, that's a completely different thing.
That's something else. Now I'm getting...
System restore, completely different thing.
All I have is backup files and restore files. This is the backup and restore center. Oh, I'm very bummed. Wait a minute, let me see if there's somewhere else. So you see more. I see backup status and configuration. That's the automatic file backup. That's
now you're in backup and restore center.
Yeah, in the control panel.
So there's two sections. The top thing says backup files or your entire computer.
I don't have or your entire computer.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if that is because do you not have a second hard drive attached?
Oh, that's why.
Maybe that would be hidden, but it seems like you should be able to do an image-based.
My NAS is turned off, so maybe if I turn on my NAS, power died on my. I'm
confused that it wouldn't appear even though you didn't have something attached, because actually you can also back up to DVDs. So I'm not really sure why you don't see that option. We'll have to investigate this.
Yeah, even in the help it says to back up your entire computer.
Yeah,
I need Windows Complete backup.
Right.
It is included with Vista Business, Vista Enterprise, and Vista Ultimate.
Yeah, it's not on the Home version, so you don't get it on Home Basic or Home Premium, but you do get it on every other version.
So this is an image backup, basically.
Right.
Oh, that's very. So you don't need to go out and buy a Cronus or
right. If you have Vista, you're all set.
Oh, that's neat.
There are, Microsoft has other products like Windows Home Server and OneCare also offer these kinds of capabilities. So if you're not running Vista, or if you want a more centralized backup for all of your PCs, you could use one of those products, and that sort of adds an additional layer on top of that. So if you have a home network with a bunch of different machines, XP, Vista, you could do that, for multiple PCs. But just Vista, backup and restore center should give you everything you need, assuming you have one of the correct versions.
Yeah, apparently I don't.
Or if you're not Leo.
I'm pretty sure I have Ultimate.
This is a tip for everybody except for you.
Yeah, I mean that's.
You sure it's not Home Premium?
Wait a minute, let me look.
Right click on Computer in the Start menu and do Properties.
Yeah. Vista Home Premium.
Ha! You joker.
Boy, am I a moron. You know why? Because this machine is a gateway machine that came with Home Premium, and I never upgraded it to Ultimate. I of course have Ultimate from MSDN. I just never.
Leo, I'm tired of your excuses. Okay. Well, so no, that's good. I'm glad that's what it is.
All this time, I thought it was Ultimate. Just shows you how there are only a few features, but this is one of them I would like to get. Ultimate. Yeah. All right.
That and the incredible Ultimate Extras, which of course are the dividing point between Ultimate and all the other versions.
Yeah. That explains why I don't have that motion desktop going.
Yes, it does. It explains lots of things.
Nabbit. All this time I've been running Home Premium and I didn't even know.
Oh, well.
That's pretty funny. So, but it's probably more of our listeners are running Home Premium than Ultimate. So there you go.
Absolutely. So in that case, I would obviously there are plenty of third-party solutions available, but if you want to do a complete PC backup, like an image-based backup, you mentioned Acronis, but Windows Live OneCare is actually one of the cheaper ways to do that kind of thing. And,
so it also has.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
The complete. Is it the same?
And it does it from a centralized location. It will do it for all the PCs in your house, not just.
But it doesn't do that online. It does it to an external drive or a device.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. See, that's the other thing, and we were talking about. That's why we talked about Jungle Disk and these other solutions. Is you got to get one out of your house too. Even if it's
offsite backup is key.
Offsite.
Yeah, however you do it. I think in this day and age, unless you have an astronomical amount of data, and actually in some ways I do, getting a backup, at least occasionally, out of your house or wherever you are is huge.
Just
it's
get a
really
second
important.
external drive and swap them.
Yeah.
That would work.
I did that for years with my parents, a FireWire drive. Now I do it online. So
let me do my software pick, and you can do yours, because I really like yours, and I want people to know about it. Have you ever used Evernote? You must use Evernote.
No, this is the online note-taking.
Well, it wasn't
service,
online
right?
until recently. It was a standalone application. I got it with, I have a tablet PC, and I used Microsoft's OneNote, which is fantastic for a while. But I tried Evernote. Evernote is a little same idea as OneNote, a little simpler. Has some nice features. It's a different kind of model. Instead of notebooks, it's kind of like a scrolling paper tape. But I really liked Evernote. And they had a free version, and then they had a kind of a paid version. They're now in beta with, just as you say, a web service version of it. So there's a desktop client. It's very much like the old, in fact, it is basically the old Evernote. But now it's Windows, Mac, web. You can use it on Windows mobile phones. So what happens is you'll create your database of notes, and it has a clipping feature, so you can clip from web pages. It saves graphics, saves a lot of the metadata. It's more than just text. Into a very fast searchable notebook. If you save a graphic, this is really cool. It will find the text in the graphic and automatically do text recognition.
Oh, now this sounds familiar. I might have read about this.
This is really neat. Now the beta, let's see, is not yet public, but I would sign up now. They said when I talked to them last week, they said it would be this week. So soon this will go public, and boy, is this awesome. Because you could. I
mean, does it do syncing between the different sources?
It syncs it to their central database.
Yeah.
So your notes are kept on their server. It's a web service, and then if you run it on, say, your Windows mobile phone, you'll have exactly the same database. It also supports IMAP, so you can set up a email client on almost anything that supports IMAP. Let's say you have a Nokia 810 or something. Set it up as an IMAP, and it will show up as an IMAP folder with all your notes in it.
Oh, that's great.
It is free right now, and it is very, very slick. Works on an iPhone as well. So, there's a web-based interface to it. There's a desktop client for Mac and Windows, and then there is a mobile client for most phones. I'm really, I've kind of become hooked on this. Now, I will send you an invite, because I have, I think, one more invite, and then I will have to encourage everyone else to sign up for the beta. I got invited to the beta like the next day, so I think they're pretty open. And you can download Evernote 2.2 now and use it now. And
this is the application.
That's the application. And then once you get the invitation to the online portion, it'll start syncing. So you can already start running the software now. And it's great. I mean, it's just great software. I just really like what they've done with it. Evernote Portable for your mobiles. You can even run it off a USB key, so you can carry it with you. But because of this syncing, you don't really need that. Email yourself a note. You get a private. Once you get the signed up for the web service, you get a private email address. You can email yourself a note from anywhere. It goes right into your notes. It's very slick. And I've talked to them about adding encryption. That's on their roadmap. They really need to do that, because right now the stuff's unencrypted. So you might not want to put really private stuff in there. But it's very fast searching, very organized. Evernote, EVERNOTE.com. And Paul, I'll send you an invite, because I have, I think, one more left.
Okay.
Preview, if you want to get on the preview site, it's preview.evernote.com. And you have another one.
I do.
Believe. Yes.
Yeah, this was just released today in beta. It's also a web service. It's not specific to Windows, but it's such a cool program, or a service, I guess, that I thought it was warranted mentioning. It's the online version of Adobe Photoshop, which they're calling Photoshop Express. And it's at photoshop.com/express. And you log in, you get 2 gigabytes of storage space. You can create albums and do all that stuff. It integrates somewhat, I guess, with Facebook, Picasa, and PhotoBucket. I use Picasa Web, so that's actually good for me. But it has all the basic, photo editing capabilities that you would want. And of course, I've been a Photoshop user for a long time, but I'm actually a Photoshop Express user. I use the the consumer-oriented version. And it's interesting. One thing I didn't quite get on the latest revision, which they released last fall, I think version 6, is it has this sort of dark gray user interface that doesn't really look much like a Windows application. But when you see this online version, you realize what they were going for, because this thing has probably been created in Air, Adobe Air, which
Beautiful.
is sort of like there.
Oh, it's so
beautiful.
And
it's a gorgeous application. It's really nice looking.
I like their tagline, "Made you look."
yeah. It's neat. So I've been uploading some photos to it just to sort of test it out, and it has what you would want. I mean, it has all that, red eye removal, exposure settings, white balance.
And you get 2 gigs of storage too, right? So it's kind of I guess they want to make it a Flickr, a photo sharing site, right? Or no?
Yes, right. Yes. No, that's part of it, definitely. And I've put some stuff up there. Like I said, I don't have anything public yet. You can set your stuff up to share. You can share it with just your friends. You can share it with the world. If you just go to the site right now, I think, and click on galleries or on albums, you'll see whatever people have made available to the public. Right. And that's not actually such a bad thing to do, because you get an idea, for the capabilities of it just by browsing around what other people are doing. But you can sign up for free. My understanding is that they're going to offer more storage at a cost at some time in the future. But even right now, I'd say in beta, it's pretty slick. I mean, and it's a really good indication, I think, where these web-based applications are heading, because this is in many ways, a video might be the ultimate final frontier for web applications, but I'd say photo editing is one of those things. Well, people say, well, you're never going to be able to do Photoshop on the web, and I don't know.
I think that's Adobe's plan. I think that's their plan eventually.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And
so is that Air? I mean, it really is. When you first go to the front page, this gallery is gorgeous.
It's got to be Air, because they've described it, in Adobe's words, it's a rich internet application, and that's the way they describe Air. The Air is the environment for creating these rich internet applications, what we would call like a web 2.0 or cloud computing type solution. It's just amazing. It's amazing to me what's possible on the web now. It is so sophisticated compared to even just a few years ago.
Come a long way from HTML, I'll tell you.
That's crazy.
I mean, this is beautiful. Really gorgeous. I wish they had more storage. I guess it's early days yet, but just the gallery, the way it works, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is slick. You can do slideshows, and you can do. It's a little bit hidden, but you can actually do a lot of the things that you can do on some of the other services. So, for example, you can obviously link to these pages, but you can also embed a slideshow from here. And I haven't tested to see whether private photos will play in a public slideshow on a public website. Okay. That's something I'm going to be looking at this weekend, because I would be somewhat interested in storing stuff here, but then, having a mini slideshow appear, on my public website or something. So I'm going to look into some of that stuff. But even as it is right now, regardless of whether that works, it's really well done.
And you get to create a personal sharing URL. So I can make leo.photoshop.com be my URL. Yeah. Oh, that's just really neat. Boy, I tell you. I'll probably use this in Australia. This looks like something I'd really like to use. U.S. only. Oh, bad. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I feel so bad when we talk about this stuff, because we have a massive international audience, and often the stuff we talk about they can't do. Why?
I don't know.
That's bad.
Well, remember, it's a beta, and I think that this is the type of thing over time I'm sure they'll expand it
somebody
to.
Already got
Adobe's not a fly-by-night operation.
They'll be around. 8. All right, so I'm just I couldn't get Leo. I guess it was either too short or some creep named Leo already got it. But I have leolaporte.photoshop.com. I'll upload some pictures. This is cool. Yeah. This is really neat.
Photoshop I should put some public ones out there, I guess.
Yeah, photoshop.com/express. Put a picture of your coffee machine up there. And your Guillermo coffee.
There you go.
And I'll put it head-to-head against my Francis.
Well, you do use the inferior pod system.
Oh, I know. I'm sure. I know that there are coffee aficionados are saying, pods.
No, you know what? By the way, just like everything else in life, there are good pods and bad pods. And
Illy pods are good pods.
I have no doubt that Illy pods are good pods.
I'm a pod person.
You are a pod person.
I'm a pod.
I also wanted to mention, last week I discussed my HD DVD drive for the Xbox 360, which I have given away.
You did?
I did, yeah. I got about 100 emails. So
I bet you did.
hopefully, I've replied to everybody who wrote in. I appreciate the interest and all that. I promise I got to do another Everything Must Go, but I would like to make another offer this week.
Yes.
If I could. This one is free. I got this for free from Microsoft. Same thing happened to me with Windows Server 2003. So Microsoft sent me a version of Windows Server 2008 Enterprise Edition. It comes with 25 client access licenses. It's a complete retail package. It's the real thing,
Wow.
I did open it up to look at it, but I have not used it in any fashion.
You don't want to set up a server with 25 seats?
Well, I mean, I get the software for free anyway, so I don't really need this. I'm not really sure why they did this. Now, in this case, I don't want to just give this to the first person who writes in. That might be a little unfair. So I think the way I'd like to do this is the first 100 people, I'll put their email addresses into a random generator, and I'll give it to one of the first people that writes in. So, like I said, I did this with Windows Server 2003 at some point when I did all that Everything Must Go stuff. Because I didn't pay for this, I'm not going to, ask for half the retail price, or I'm just going to give it away. So if whoever gets this could just pay for shipping, that would be fine, and I'll just send this to you. So if you are interested in this, just drop me an email, and throt@gmail.com, and like I said, I'll put your name in I'll create some kind of a random, or use some kind of a random generator to figure out who gets it, and we'll give it away, and that's how we'll do it.
There we go.
Because I don't get enough email.
Poor guy. And for those of you who tuned in to learn how to pick up hot chicks,
sorry about that. Yeah. We'll have part 2 next week.
We've run out of time. But
we wanted to cover it. It was the next thing.
Next week, Paul Thurrot's tricks for hooking up with hot women
on Windows Vista.
Using Windows Vista and Photoshop Express. It's
more secure.
No more screen scraping for you.
That's right. Ugh.
No, that's an image I could live with that. Paul Thurrott, I think we're going to take a couple of weeks off. I'm going to Australia, as you know. I'm going to see if we can record from Australia. I'm worried that the internet connection. It's funny when we do Skype calls to Australia, they always work very well. There's a little latency, but otherwise they work very well. But I don't know if the places I am will have good internet. So if
you're going to the end of the earth,
almost.
You realize this is like, if you've ever watched Planet Earth, this is at the end of the earth.
It's the last island before Antarctica.
It's the last island before Mars.
Yeah, if you kept going, I guess.
It's just on the end of the earth.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Tasmania.
You're doing a crazy vacation too. You're not just going to Australia. You're doing
Tasmania.
Crazy stuff.
Well, I can't talk about it yet, but you will learn more about it. It's been kind of a hush-hush trip. There is a reason for the trip. And
National security is involved.
Picking up hot men. Blogger Bob of the TSA, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Please let me through the borders. We on Twitter, we gave him kind of a hard time. But no, more details are forthcoming on what the trip is all about. But it's a photo safari, and I'm just very, very excited. And I will be uploading to the blog and audio and video. And I got a new video camera for this, and photos, of course. But I'm hoping
it's going to be awesome. That's amazing.
And I'm going to take a little time off to do some podcasting. So with any luck, we'll have a podcast next week. But if you don't hear from us for a couple of weeks, that's why. And I promise you, we will be back April 18th with another Windows Weekly. All right. Thank you, Paul.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. We'll take care, and we'll see you next time on Windows Weekly.